If you want to participate in our society fully, you got to get vaccinated.
If you want to participate in our society fully, you got to get vaccinated. Holy cow, guys. Has this whole thing just escalated to the next level all of a sudden? What's your first reaction? Because then we're going to put it in the CRT lens and see how we get through that. James, what's your first reaction to this, buddy?
Don't get on the train, Jack. Don't get on the train, Jack.
Oh,
This is
the train to the gulag.
This is the train to something. This is exactly what we should not be doing, obviously. And it's very, very clear that this is exactly what we should not be doing. Enforcing this kind of thing is inimical to the entire principle of the United States. It's also inimical to science, by the way. You actually want to be able to know whether things are working or not, which requires you to have groups that have different treatments. Even if you're not doing an experiment, you still want to have different groups. So this is just a heavy-handed tool that they're using to try to enforce something. They haven't been exactly transparent at any point as to why. They say that this is going to save lives, but the data are not actually all that conclusive around that. They say that, this is for our own good, but these people are going to tell us what's for our own good after this past year and a half. They say that it's working in concert with the business community. Well, who and which people, and so we can stop frequenting those places. But the idea that our society requires us to receive a vaccination, when the most common response that I get to why is, well, Washington required it for smallpox, which turns out to be slightly more dangerous of a virus, requires a lot more transparency and honesty than they've been giving us. So this is just, they think this is going to increase vaccination rates, and it probably will, but it's not going to increase trust in their authority. It's not going to increase trust in the vaccine. It's not going to increase trust in anything. And just wait till we get to the CRT side of this. So my reaction is that, this manipulation has been coming. This is another attempt to divide people. The vaxxed and the unvaxxed are going to be separated into two groups that are going to stratify society. They're going to get fighting over it. The scapegoating of the unvaccinated is about to begin full blast, including, by the way, it'll be unvaccinated people who have medical reasons why they shouldn't get the vaccine, and unvaccinated people who have actually had the virus and therefore have at least equivalent, if not more robust immunity already, and therefore shouldn't need the vaccine. It's just going to be a complete catastrophe.
Yes, Mr. Christopher Rufo.
Well, I think that you have to look at it in context of the history of these public measures. And you have to go back, almost 18 months now to last February and then March. And it was originally, as you all know, kind of 15 days to stop the spread, this very new policy of lockdown, which I don't think had been done ever before. And I think we were really pressured into it because China had done it. China said that they had done the lockdown, they had quashed the virus, which we don't know. We don't know if that's exactly right or not. We don't really have accurate information out of China. And then it was this rolling series of maneuvers with in and out of lockdown. And then it was really, we're just going to do these rolling lockdowns until we get the vaccine. And when we have the vaccine, everything will go back to normal. And now the vaccine is out. We have pretty high rates of vaccination. Look, I'm pro-vaccine. I got vaccinated. My family's vaccinated. The evidence that I've seen from my kind of layman's perspective persuaded me that the vaccine is worthwhile, that it's effective, that it is something that you should do, especially if you're over 50, especially if you have a kind of obesity or diabetes or some other health condition. But this was the deal that was essentially promised to us by policymakers. When the vaccine is out, it's out. You can get it for free. I actually just walked into a CVS and got it on the spot. It's available for free to anyone. It's been quite a bit of time. And Americans can decide, do you want the vaccine or not? And the authorities and the public health officials should persuade Americans, if they believe, to get the vaccine, to do it. But ultimately, we have a system where the individual decides his or her own risk, where some of you are not vaccinated, some of us are vaccinated. That's the risk tolerance that you have. That's a decision you made. And I think, good to go. We should be fine. And now we're getting vaccine passports. Now I think in the fall, I feel more and more persuaded that there's a good likelihood that we'll go back into lockdown, at least in certain places. And then this all begs the question, where does it end? I think people have complied over and over. And I was at the gym yesterday, and the owner of my gym is he's one of us. He's very conservative. The guys were at the gym are on the same page, and he said, "Hey, look, I did it last year, but I opened and I didn't shut back down in the fall." He's like, "I'm not shutting down ever again, because if those of us who made the sacrifice lost huge amounts of revenue, struggled just to get by, another lockdown is I'm just going to shut the door, walk away, break my lease, sell the equipment, and I'm done." And I think that we have to listen to those folks. And, Citibank and Mayor de Blasio's office and all these people can ride out these consequences. But the guy who's running a gym or a falafel stand or a very small business, these things matter. And these things are destroying their ability to provide their freedom, their rights. And look, whatever your personal decision on the vaccine is, the vaccine changed the game. The pandemic is essentially at the point where we've been promised things would change, and I think they should live up to it.
Indeed. I can get a sense out there that there's a little bit of pushback. So, for example, in DC, they reinstituted the indoor mask mandates. I'm not exactly sure if it applies specifically to restaurants in DC. It's so unclear because Mayor Bowser, she's implementing these mandates and then showing up at places indoors without a mask. Now, I went out to eat, and everybody in there had a mask on. Everybody, there was giant signs on the door, must wear a mask. I just walked right in. Nobody said anything. Nobody said anything for the rest of the night. And I saw a couple of other people doing the same thing. So I wonder if the enforcement team, right? Because who's been the enforcement team for these things? It's been us. It's been the hostess. It's been the manager. It's been the people in fear of getting fined. So they've been enforcing it citizen on citizen, which was one of the things that I was opposed to in the first round, which was don't make a 20-year-old girl tell you, a grown-ass man, to comply with this thing that has been mandated for everybody, right? Like, don't put her or some line worker or just an innocent bystander in the conflict position of having to police you. But at this point now, it's been a year or more, and man, I am over it. Lots of people are over it, but it's convoluting people's perceptions. James, I noted that you had a little bit of an exchange with the Reason folks and the libertarians. What has happened to the libertarian perspective on this? Is there a libertarian position on these matters that makes any sense to you? And then we're going to get to the CRT angle because it's fascinating to me.
I've lost all faith in, it's hard to say what is a libertarian, right? I don't mean to be philosophical, like they all disagree with one another, which is great because they kind of should, philosophically speaking. But, the idea though, I don't even know how to say this correctly. So the tiff was, I guess, between me and Robbie Sov, if I've said his name right. I'm not quite sure how his last name's pronounced, but he said that he would much, I don't know how many muches he used, like 9 on Twitter, rather have a vaccine passport than have to put a mask on again. And then he told me later that the reason is because he's already been vaccinated, so the mask is more restrictive to him. And I was like, well, just don't wear one. How complicated is this? But if that's like what's in it for me because of the decisions I made and screw everybody else, especially we know the risk of a vaccine passport. When you start making, there'd be some kind of a thing that you scan in your phone. If it was in China, it would be WeChat that allows you to participate, get into venues, spend money or not, etc. When you start to slip into that, the Chinese, they slip that social credit system right into that system. People are like, oh, wow, I can pay with my phone. And the next thing you know, they're like, why can't I buy a plane ticket? It's been in operation for 2 or 3 years before anybody knew it was being used on them. And so they know where they're going with this. This is just an invitation in that direction. So to see libertarians go completely blind on that because they don't want to do something that they probably don't have to do anyway. And if they do, we just listen to them for a year, yell at us that it's a minor inconvenience. Shut up and wear a mask. Okay, it's a minor inconvenience. Shut up. And they don't work anyway. Like, so what the heck? So, this is what people aren't, tiff about, vaccine passports or whatever with people from Reason or libertarians aside. This is what people don't understand is the vaccine passport is a grotesque infringement of the most worrying kind on civil liberties that we've probably faced in the history of the country. And it opens the door to a cascade of things. And people say, oh, well, that would be unreasonable. Guys, that I explained last night even on Twitter to somebody, and then Robbie Solev comes out and does this. It's like, this has been a plan, is to get people all along. This has been a plan to open the door to getting people to argue for the vaccine passport because they know how psychologically people will, oh, I got vaccinated, therefore no problem for me. We've heard this argument a million times in a million other domains, which is, well, if you're not afraid to get arrested, just don't break the law. I've already been vaccinated, therefore I shouldn't. Vaccine passports, no big deal. They knew that thousands or millions of people would start making that stupid argument if they got lots of people to be vaccinated, because a lot of people are apparently not very principled. They don't understand the possible. They're not thinking consequentially. And I tell you, if we slip into a social credit system, which this thing is a backdoor for, I'm not saying it's a guarantee that that's what it's going to. I do know that that's the purpose of it, but it is a backdoor to it. And if we slip into a social credit system, we're not getting out of this easily. There is no pretty way out if we go to a full social credit system, and the vaccine passport enables it. And de Blasio's pushing exactly that plan. He's going to give us a key to freedom in New York City, in the United States of America, where your key to freedom is called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Like, what? No, I'm sorry. This isn't how this works here.